So if your relationship just ended and you're going through a bit of a quiet panic that maybe no one else is seeing, you might be wondering, well, how is she doing so fine? How has she already moved on? And maybe your partner's posting stories, smiling and getting on with her life, acting like everything's normal. Meanwhile, you feel like shit and you're dragging yourself through your day. But here's the part that probably makes it worse. You probably thought that she'd be feeling the same. If the relationship ever ended, it would be hard for her too. That you'd see more tears, more struggle, or maybe she'd be calling you late at night needing to hear your voice. But instead, it feels like she's probably light years ahead of you while you're stuck playing replays of the relationship in your head. So let's break it down and talk about what's actually happening, not from the surface, but on a deeper level. The first thing you need to understand is that when a woman leaves a relationship, especially a long-term one, it's really an overnight decision. It might look sudden to you. The breakup might feel like it's just come out of nowhere, but in reality, for a lot of women, the actual emotional withdrawal starts months ago. So what tends to happen is that emotional detachment happens in silence. There's a quiet disconnection. It's a very subtle pulling away. And your partner might have been dropping hints, expressing needs, trying to raise things, and maybe you missed them, maybe you didn't know what to do with them. And maybe you just thought things were fine because she wasn't yelling or packing a bag yet. But what often gets missed is what I guess most women, not all, tend to process the breakup while they're still in the relationship. They grieve while you're still going to dinner together. They think about leaving when you're still sharing a bed. And by the time they actually leave, they've already sat with the grief. They've already had the hard conversations with themselves. They've already cried in silence, not in the break, not after the breakup, but before it. So when you're seeing her, I guess, from the outside looking fine, what you're really seeing is phase two of her process. You're entering phase one just as she's coming out the other side. And that's one of the biggest reasons it feels like she's already over you, not because she doesn't care, but because she already went through the emotional roller coaster that you're only stepping onto now. So let's layer in, I think, another important piece. When you're in a place of emotional pain, everything feels magnified. So you're comparing your internal state to her external presentation. You're in heartbreak mode, scanning for, I guess, any clue that she might be hurting too. So you become hypersensitive. You interpret a smile or a haircut or a new gym membership as evidence that she's thriving without you, not because someone looks okay. It doesn't mean that they are. So she might be throwing herself into distractions. She could be trying to reclaim control. She might be showing up as a stronger version of herself because she doesn't know how to move forward. And that doesn't mean it's not hard for her. It just means she's handling it differently. And men and women often grieve differently. It's not universal. Many men, I should say, process loss after the relationship ends, whilst a lot of women will process it before. So you're not crazy for thinking, well, how come she looks like she's not affected? But it doesn't mean she didn't feel anything. It doesn't mean you didn't matter. It just means her timeline is different. Now, here's another truth. If your partner felt unheard, unseen, and just not prioritized in the relationship, then her sense of identity might have been wrapped up in trying to fix things or trying to make you understand and trying to feel safe. And now that she's left, it may feel to her like it's a return to herself, like she's getting her oxygen back. And that sense of relief, if the relationship had love, it can be real for her. And that hurts, right? Because it feels personal, like you were the problem. But sometimes it's not that black and white. It's not always about whether you are a good or a bad partner. It's about how safe, seen, and emotionally secure the relationship felt for your partner. And if she didn't feel that, well, leaving becomes a way to reclaim that security. And that doesn't mean that you didn't love her. It means that love just didn't land in the way that she needed it to. Now, here's the bit that gets skipped in a lot of these conversations. You looking at her thinking she's already over you is really like saying, well, I feel like I didn't matter as much as I thought I did. And that's the wound underneath. That's the real pain that we need to process. It's not that she's just gone. It's that she's not falling apart without you, and that makes you feel like you're replaceable, forgettable even, and that maybe the love wasn't real. And that hurts like hell because it triggers the old story about us not being enough. But I want you to hear this clearly. Just because somebody doesn't show their pain the same way that you do, it doesn't mean they didn't care. And just because she's trying to move forward doesn't mean that what you had meant nothing or that you can't get that back. This moment, right, where you're sitting in the silence wondering, it's just not knowing. And this is where most men either shrink or they grow. You can shrink into the self-pity, have the pity parties, into anger, into over obsessing, her Instagram, her socials, or you can grow. You can use this space right now to rebuild your internal values, your structure, and to reflect on the relationship, what it showed you about yourself, not just about her. So you can either use this heartbreak as a blueprint for growth or to anger and implosion. So not by trying to win her back, but by becoming the kind of man that no longer needs to chase to feel whole. Because if you want a woman to be drawn back into your life, not manipulated, not guilted, but genuinely drawn, it has to be become because you've become a different version. You become rooted, calm, confident, and self-respecting. And that doesn't happen by waiting around. That happens by doing the work. So next time you ask yourself, well, why does it feel like she's already over me? Try flipping it. All right, try flipping it over. And what am I doing right now to become the kind of man that I'd be proud of, regardless of whether she ever comes back? Because when you live that answer, that's when everything starts to shift. So let's talk about what's happening underneath when it feels like she's already over you. Because I think a lot of guys feel that it's overnight, that it's like she flipped the switch, woke up one morning, decided, you know what, I'm done. But that's never the case. What's actually going on is it's something called confirmation bias. And it's been happening in the background for quite a while. Now, confirmation bias is not some complicated psych term for academics. It's just the brain's way of reinforcing a story that we're already leaning towards, right? So if she started feeling like you don't listen, she'll only start noticing the moments that you interrupt. Or if she feels like you're emotionally distant, she'll remember every time that you were glued to your phone or you were checked out during a conversation. And over time, her mind will collect all these little receipts, moments that reinforce that belief that this guy isn't going to change. And that's the shift. It's subtle. She starts way before she walks out the door. It's not that she stopped loving you. It's not that she wanted to leave. It's just that, and this is the part most men miss, she ran out of hope, not love, hope. She lost faith that you could or would meet her emotional needs or even understand what they were. So the only remaining option in her mind was to leave the relationship, because in her world, like, she's probably already tried everything else. And to be fair, maybe she didn't always communicate that clearly. Maybe she was dealing with her own emotional baggage or reacting instead of responding. But by the time she said, I'm done, she's already been emotionally detaching for weeks and sometimes months. Yes, so of course it's going to feel like, she's over you. But to her, the breakup wasn't the beginning. It was the end of a long, I guess, a bit of a silent goodbye. And that's where a lot of us guys can get stuck. We just think, well, she moved on so fast, so was I even really that important to her? But what they're really seeing is the lag time. You're just catching up to something she's been feeling for a while, and you're at the starting line where she's halfway down the road. Let me give you a simple analogy. So imagine a house, and that house is your relationship. Now pretend that the house is getting colder inside that house for a long time. There's the wind's coming through the windows, a cold draft, a broken heater, and you barely notice it at first. You might throw on a hoodie, and your partner mentions that, hey, it's getting cold in here, but you just brush it off, and you might just say, look, it's fine, it's just winter. Then weeks go by, and then she starts wrapping herself up in blankets, like lighting, candles or a little gas heater or something like that. She's doing her own thing, essentially, to feel warm. Then she tells you again, look, it's freezing in here. Maybe she says a little bit louder. Maybe it sounds a little bit like nagging to you, and you might get defensive, and you're saying, well, it's not that cold, you're overreacting. But what she's really saying is, I'm not okay here, and I need you to notice. Eventually, she stops talking. She just stops trying to fix it with you. And one day while you're out, she just packs up a bag and finds a warmer house. And you come home to an empty, cold house going, well, what the hell just happened? But here's the truth. She left because she'd already lived in the cold for too long. And she stopped believing that you were ever going to fix the heater. Right? And that's confirmation bias in action. She had a story. He doesn't get it, and he's not going to change. And everything you did, whether you meant to or not, just added weight to that belief. So what do you do now? Well, first, stop trying to reheat the house with a bunch of frantic text messages or grand gestures. That's the equivalent of waving your arms at the window saying, hey, I fixed it. She's not even standing on the veranda, right? She's nowhere. She's not even in the same street anymore. She's already moved into a new place emotionally. So you have to start by actually fixing the heater, which means you're the heater, not her. And it's not for her benefit, it's for yours. Second, you need to understand this. Your actions now either reinforce her decision or they can gently challenge it. So if you chase her, you panic text her or beg her to talk to you, that only confirms what she already believes, that you're still not hearing her, you're still not emotionally safe, and you're not someone she can rely on. But if you can show some restraint, stability, and actual growth, not not performative growth, but real grounded change, then she might begin to question the story and she can get curious. But you can't fake it. You can't do the work hoping she's watching. You have to do it because you finally get it, because you're tired of that cold house as well. So because you realize that you were also cold in the relationship as well, but you didn't have the tools or the self-awareness to face it. Because you don't get her back by convincing her. You don't win her over by guilt, pressure, or pleas. You rebuild influence by becoming a man that doesn't avoid discomfort, who listens and can create emotional safety, not just for her, but for yourself as well. So if it feels like she's already over you, maybe she is, but maybe she had to be. And perhaps that space isn't just her walking away, it's an opportunity for you to, I guess, walk towards something you've been avoiding, your own healing, your own integrity, your own sense of self-worth. And that's what this is, guys, not the waiting game, a rebuilding phase. And whether she sees it or not, that's no longer the point, because if you rebuild the foundation properly, you won't need to chase anyone, because you'll know that you are the warm house again. And if someone chooses to come back, it won't be because you begged, it'll be because the temperature changed and they felt it.